Hi, my name is Amanda Asproni, and I'm a clinical psychotherapist. I specialize in complex PTSD, betrayal trauma, childhood sexual abuse, intimacy, anorexia, and problematic sexual behavior. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to talk about something a bit tricky. I recently asked some of my clients what they thought would be helpful for me to talk about on my YouTube channel, and one of them said ego states, and I was like, oh, that's a really hard one. So ego states is a term coined by Eric Berne, and he is the father of a theoretical orientation that some of us use, called transactional analysis. So ego states is about psychic structure inside our brain, about our personalities. And it's about different parts of our personality that each kind of hold different sets of personality traits. I'm not talking about schizophrenia, and I'm not talking about dissociative identity disorder, although they can be related if you look at this on a spectrum. Ego states are not unhealthy. Every person, if you ask them and they're honest, will tell you that they have different parts of them that will go off and kind of talk to each other in their head. When people refer to having voices in their head, you think about on the spectrum where someone has really lost touch with reality, then you're talking about bipolar, you're talking about schizophrenia and other very serious mental illnesses. When I'm talking about ego states in this video, though, I'm not that far along the spectrum, but I am far enough along the spectrum to talk about fragmentation in ego states. And that's where someone can be acting from a different part of their personality that isn't necessarily integrated with another one. And I will give you an example. So take my youngest child, who will be angry at me because he doesn't get his way, or he's scared, and he occasionally will turn around and scream, "Mommy, I hate you." Okay, so in that moment, do I think that my child actually hates me? No, I know my child doesn't hate me. I know in that moment, he's either scared, he's really angry, he's not getting his way, he's struggling with impulse control. A whole litany of things could be the cause of that outburst. But that's an example of an ego state. Now, fast forward several hours later, I see him again, I pick him up, and he opens the door of my car and he says, "Mommy, I'm so sorry. I don't hate you, I love you." He says, "I was just really angry, I was really scared, I was really upset that I didn't, get my way, or I had to do A, B, or C." Those are two different ego states. Okay, so then the tricky question is, which one is you? Which one is him? Well, all of it is him, but we would say his higher self, his true self, his heart, his soul, is obviously the piece of him that says, "Mommy, I love you. I didn't really mean that. I was just feeling really angry or overwhelmed," or whatever the case may be. Why are ego states important in therapy? Why are they important in recovery or in the healing journey? And especially, why are they important when you look at the specialties that I work in? They're important because when someone goes through complex trauma, and basically everybody on my caseload has some form of complex trauma, it's just how it actually seems to come together that can be different. So if someone has developmental trauma where they have had experiences in their early life that can be very disorganizing, like childhood sexual abuse, that can create splits in someone's personality where the different ego states are very disconnected from each other, and they can have very different agendas, very different modus operandi, and they can be highly self-destructive. They can be very hidden from the person, and they're usually not relational, and they are not going to help a person be at their highest level of functioning in life, relationally, emotionally, career, everything. It's all interlinked together. So when clients come in and first start with me, we have to have these really kind of awkward, uncomfortable, strange conversations about ego states, where I somehow manage to convince them that they have different voices in their heads. That's normal, that's okay, don't panic, but we have to get to know all those different parts, all those different ego states, because they have to start coming together, integrating. You have to start having relationships with each of those different parts so that you can understand your own past behavior. You can understand patterns that are destructive that you continue to make in your life. And you can also start to understand why you have certain goals or you have certain dreams that you just can't seem to reach. It sounds a little bit crazy to know that that would be related to a strange concept called ego states, which also, by the way, doesn't have anything to do with the way that most people understand the word ego. So it doesn't mean like this blown up, grandiose sense of self when we use it in the way that we use it with the clinical terminology. I hope that this is interesting. I know it might be a little bit scary. It definitely can be a little bit weird, but once my clients grasp the concept, it actually becomes really fun, and it's actually quite funny. For example, one of my clients that I was talking to recently, her and her husband have been really doing a lot of work in the last couple years to get healthy. They both have histories of developmental trauma, and they are trying to put their marriage together and create a healthy family dynamic that neither one of them came from. So she had an encounter with her husband from her ego state that is an inner child that has a princess demeanor and likes to get her way. So she realized that she acted in a way towards her husband that she was really ashamed of, and it was really immature and it was very self-centered. So she had a conversation with herself, with her ego state that was this little girl, this inner child, this immature part of herself, and said, hey, that wasn't okay to act like that towards your husband. Just like she would talk to her child. You need to go in there and you need to say to your husband that that was not okay. You're really sorry. That's not how we act in relationships. Will you forgive me? Can I have a redo? And it was phenomenal because she did it. And it didn't go perfectly, which was also phenomenal. And she, for a moment, was really upset about it. But I said, no, this is great, because both her and her husband are showing up and they're both dealing with these parts of themselves. So when she went back and tried to make the amends, her husband was not in the ego state, his adult or his higher self, his mature person. He was, I think, probably in his teenager. And you can imagine what all of our teenagers' inner ego states are like if everyone thinks about what they were like, you know, in those adolescent years. So that is a quick 8 minutes, 24 seconds explanation of ego states and how that can relate to healing from complex trauma, developmental trauma. If you find this something that resonates with you, if it's interesting, if you think it will help somebody else, please click subscribe, hit the like button so that this video has a better chance to reach more people. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again.